Hello, I'm Zeke, and welcome to the Zekely Podcast. Let's talk Pennsylvania. The guest I have today is a resident of Bucks County, Pennsylvania. He is a renowned attorney with substantial experience prosecuting and defending civil and criminal cases in both state and federal courts. And now he is running to be Bucks County's next district attorney. Thank you so much for being here, Joe Kahn.
I'm Zeke, a doctor, a Pennsylvanian, and an unapologetic supporter of democratic values. You might have seen me on social media working my ass off for Democrats and meeting some pretty amazing people along the way, like President Barack Obama and Governor Josh Shapiro. For years, I've knocked thousands of doors all over Pennsylvania and poured my heart and soul into supporting candidates and causes that make a difference, from local school board races to national elections. The personal is political, and I take every election in Pennsylvania personally. Where the mainstream media has failed you, I will give you truth and independence. You'll hear from Democratic leaders, candidates, and changemakers who are working to improve the health of the Commonwealth, and it won't be boring as hell. No matter where you are, I'll meet you with hope and a plan to make your community better one day at a time. Welcome to the Zekely Podcast. Let's talk Pennsylvania.
Thanks for having me, Zeke. It's great to be with you.
I'm so excited you're here. Is this your first podcast experience?
It's my first with you.
Definitely, I agree with you. This is your first time on the Zekely Podcast. We're going to get to know you, why you're running for this important position, and play some games and have some fun. So you ready?
I'm psyched. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Well, first of all, I have to ask you, why have you decided to run for the district attorney of Bucks County?
There's just so much bad that's going on right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was horrible that Trump won the election in November. We've been here before, right? And I think a lot of us tried to answer the question after we processed the results. You know, what's the good that we can do? And when Donald Trump became president and was sworn in, to see these vicious attacks, right? The Shakespeare line of "let's kill all the lawyers," right? Of attacking lawyers, going after law firms, firing any prosecutor who wouldn't bend the knee. You know, it really just drove home for me the need to do as much as I could with the skills that I have as an attorney to try and fight back. So this is, Zeke, something that was always in the back of my mind since I moved to Bucks County, seeing the more that could be done. And so I understood that I'm somebody who can win this office. It's a race no Democrat has won since the 1960s. And so I'm all in this race, and I'm excited to flip this office and not just stop some of the bad stuff that's been happening, but honestly, create a new blueprint for how we can do more at the local level.
I'm really happy you're running for this position. And I agree, there's a lot that you can do as a district attorney, no matter where you are, but Bucks County certainly could use it. And we're going to talk about more of that a little bit later. So we'll get into that. All right, now we're going to play a game, because that's what we do here on the Zekely Podcast, okay? We're going to play sustained or overruled. I'm going to give you a couple scenarios, and you're going to tell me overruled or sustained, okay? Reclining your seat on an airplane before the snacks are served.
Is it for me or for my kids?
You can for either or. Either or. This is etiquette we're talking about at 30,000 feet.
Well, I would say that's overruled for me, but I'll let my kids do it.
Okay, fine.
Gotta let them get comfortable.
All right. What about talking during a movie in a movie theater?
Overruled.
Oh, totally overruled. I hate that. I hate when people do that so much. Yeah, I agree. What about walking in the street when there's a sidewalk?
I think that depends on the jurisdiction, Zeke.
Oh my gosh. I gotta say, it drives me crazy. It drives me even crazier now because my kid is learning how to drive. And so he always used to hear me complain about it. And now that he's driving and he's trying to be really careful, he's like, "Oh, Dad, I totally understand what you mean now. Why can't they walk on the sidewalk?" I was like, "I told you, man. It's overruled for me. Totally overruled for me." All right. What about eating fish at work?
Overruled. Who would do that?
See, for me, it's kind of like 50-50, because if it's good fish and a good marinade, I'd be cool with it. You know, if it's not too overpowering or pungent, I could let someone get away with it. But I would say probably most people would agree with you.
See, when you say it works, a lot of people where I am, they put their lunch in the microwave, and that's just a hard no. You do not put fish in the microwave. That's the only thing we have here to heat stuff up.
I probably wouldn't. I've only done it a couple of times at work, and when I have, I've gotten the side eye. But I got to tell you, you know, sometimes you just got to eat the leftovers. Thanks for playing sustained or overruled. Joe, while you were the solicitor for Bucks County, you substantially improved outcomes and services while saving the county millions of dollars by practicing diversity and inclusion. How did embracing diversity and inclusion save Bucks County money?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, In a lot of ways, it was easy. We just wanted the best of the best, right? We
Mhm.
wanted people that were going to bring things to the table that we didn't have already. And I'll give you one example. We invested a lot in reaching out to some of our neighbors who didn't speak English as a first language, and it was important to us to have at least one attorney, right, who could speak to a lot of those constituents of ours. And in doing that, we learned from a lot of folks that they felt like they were being mistreated by used car dealers. This was something that got on our radar from some of our Spanish speaking constituents. And that gave us the idea, is there something we could do at the county level about that? And that led to Bucks County coming up with the first Bill of Rights for used car buyers. We have a used car lemon
Interesting.
law in Bucks County now. We're the first county in Pennsylvania to do it, and I hope we're not the last.
Wow.
It's really borrowing what New Jersey set up on a statewide level and bringing that across the bridge of Bucks County. So that's something that protects everybody, right? Who doesn't matter who you are in Bucks County. You want to buy a used car, you have a certain set of protections.
That's amazing. I mean, I just that's such an amazing story, right? That you took a community, a marginalized community at that, one that couldn't speak English, that was being taken advantage of by car dealerships. And by passing an ordinance, a law, it will help every person living in Bucks County. And certainly we hear so much negativity from the Republican Party saying that diversity and inclusion is a net negative for the society that we live in. It's just not true. And we're just talking about a local issue, buying a car. It's just incredible. I love it. I think it's a great example of how embracing diversity and inclusion helps everyone. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Thanks.
What are some specific initiatives you'd like to work on while district attorney?
I mean, there's all this, I'll call it public protection work,
Mhm.
because that is actually the term that Josh Shapiro used when he was the attorney general, protecting working families, protecting the environment. We have nothing like that in place right now. I think at best, the current DA is doing half the job by prosecuting crime, but not paying any attention to all these other areas where we can use the DA's office to stand up for people. So,
Mhm.
so that's really, really important to me. But it's also really important that we are proactive in protecting people's rights. One of those rights is the right to a clean environment. In Pennsylvania is really unique that we enshrine the right to clean air, pure water, the natural enjoyment of our natural resources in our Constitution. There are a number of other protections we have as well, right? We guarantee every child in this Commonwealth the right to a quality education. And, in my view, the Constitution also protects a woman's right to choose. And here in Bucks County, I when I was the county solicitor, I took a stand in court, became the only county solicitor to do that, to advocate for access to the abortion pill when that issue came before the Supreme Court.
Mm.
And the local Republican Party came after me, and they are very invested in stopping me from becoming district attorney here in Bucks. But for me, it's critically important that when you take that oath of office to the Constitution, that this isn't just some ceremony that you do on day one, that you take it
Mhm.
seriously, and that when you promise to uphold and defend this Constitution, that includes all the Constitution. So I think we have to really make sure that we're doing everything we can with that office, not just to protect the constitutional rights of the accused in criminal cases, which
Mhm.
every prosecutor needs to do,
Right.
but we also take seriously the obligation of a sworn officer of the law that the district attorney is to protect those rights for people in Bucks County.
Percent. Yeah, I mean, look, if the Republican Party is coming after you, you're doing all the right stuff. That's just the bottom line. We know what their platform stands for. It stands for tearing rights away from people, not giving people more rights. And so we need someone as a DA to make sure that all rights are protected. So I'm glad you're going to do that as district attorney in Bucks County. All right, Joe, what is your favorite holiday and why? And I know you grew up with a Muslim father and a Catholic mother, so this could be a little dicey, right? I mean, I don't want you to offend anyone who, if they're listening or watching this from your family.
Well, we celebrate all the holidays. I love Thanksgiving.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanksgiving, I mean, first of all, we're a big football family, a lot
Mhm.
of football on Thanksgiving, but it's also a day of a lot of great food and a day when we really get to bring everyone together, and get to see mom and dad, who are
Mm.
still. And you mentioned that they are Muslim and Catholic, and of course that means that they raise us in a Jewish neighborhood, which is where we really just got all the holidays together. But Thanksgiving is really something. It's for everyone.
I love it.
It's the great American holiday that everyone can take part of, and we love it.
It is my favorite holiday, Thanksgiving, and the food is just top tier, right? And I cook Thanksgiving every year. I try to anyway. I just love every component of Thanksgiving. You got the turkey, and the sweet potatoes with the melted marshmallow and the cranberry sauce and the mashed potato, like, and everything. Like, you have to have everything on the fork. I like to have every component on the fork for the perfect bite. I chase that dream every single year. So I'm glad we share that with each other.
Have you ever bought the sweet potatoes from the farmer's market, the Ardmore Farmer's Market?
I have not. No, I have
They
not.
have the best sweet potatoes I bought anywhere, and if you like sweet potatoes or sweet potato pie,
I love
which is,
sweet
like, one
potato
of my
pie.
favorites, you
Yeah.
gotta go to your farmer's market,
Okay.
and you gotta get those purple, I think they're purple sweet potatoes, they're amazing,
Yeah.
super sweet. You
Yeah.
don't even need to add sugar, that's how good they are.
Yeah, I usually get the canned yams, to be honest, just to, like, speed up the process. But this
I
year, I might
don't
have to
do
do
that.
it I might have to do it differently this year. So that's great. Thank you very much. Thanksgiving. I got you. I got you, Joe. Joe, what has been the hardest part of being a lawyer?
I think probably the hardest work I did was the work I did at the beginning of my career when I was prosecuting child abuse and sexual assault,
Mhm,
because that was really hard, and you know this from your work, in medicine. It was really hard work to leave behind, at the office, and I think to be the best version of yourself, you need to find a way to kind of build those protections for yourself and to have the kind of self-care, that is necessary to keep doing that work. And the idea of self-care, of kind of taking care of yourself, the idea of secondhand trauma, these weren't, ideas that, we had a language for at the time.
yeah.
And so, I think when I have the opportunity to lead the DA's office here, one of the first things that I need to make sure I do is I take care of my people, and I make sure that we give them the tools, whether it's taking breaks or
Mm,
making sure we have the right kind of, boundaries in place to allow them to be the best version of themselves, to take care of themselves, so that we can then take care of others, which I,
mhm.
I think is what our job is as public servants.
I think it's great that you think about that team approach out of the gate. That's great. And I can totally relate because pediatrics was my least favorite rotation when I was in my training days. It is very difficult to leave that at work. I never enjoyed the child abuse cases. I never enjoyed when pediatric cases didn't go well in the OR. So I was very happy to be done with that part of my training. So I totally relate with you. During the 2020 election, you defended Bucks County against an attempt by President Trump's legal team to throw out more than 2,000 absentee ballots that contained what a judge later called minor irregularities, like they had unsealed privacy envelopes. So I just wanted to say that is an extremely righteous thing that you did to defend and protect voting rights.
Well, look, thank you. And I mean, I appreciate that, but I was really just doing my job. And I took that oath to the Constitution when I was sworn in as a county solicitor.
Mm,
And frankly, I think we got a little lucky because in 2020, the Republicans who were in the offices of county commissioner and of DA, they weren't buying into all this MAGA stuff.
mm,
They were getting pressure from those folks, and they kind of tuned it out. But that the DA I mentioned, who was in office then. He's someone I worked with all the time. We teamed up when we sued polluters. We teamed up when we made Bucks County the first county in the country to take on the social media companies for targeting kids.
mhm.
But he became a judge and he's no longer there. And
Right.
the person who is there now not only listens to these election deniers and these conspiracy theorists who would uh, have these ridiculous things that Rudy Giuliani was saying back in 2020 from the parking lot of the Four Seasons Landscaping Company, right in my old neighborhood in Northeast Philly.
Mhm.
This is someone who not only takes those phone calls, she has brought these folks to Bucks County and given them a platform. It's
Ay.
a desperate attempt to try and win an election where we feel that we're ahead, but they are fighting really, really hard to keep it. And
Mhm.
I think it's unacceptable for anyone to sort of elevate that kind of nonsense, but
Mhm.
for the district attorney to do it, it really offends me. And I'm just going to make sure that we are successful in the election this year and we put an end to it.
Yeah. I mean, people need to know this stuff. They really need to hear it that there are elected officials who would undermine their ability to vote. The most sacred thing you can do in a democracy. And we need someone like you who will protect that right, no matter what office you hold. All right, let's play another game, and I call it Con Core. Con Core. All right, like core
Okay.
issues for Joe Con. I'm just going to give
Okay.
you like either or scenarios. You're gonna pick one, okay? All right,
Okay.
so Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah. Have you seen Andor, by the way? That show Andor on I think it was, I don't know if it was Disney Plus or something.
No, so I grew up when the original movies were coming out.
Hmm.
So I haven't really stayed current with all the new stuff, but tell me about it.
I have to say that show in the timeline that we're in now, it spoke to me. It had me in a chokehold. This was like a gritty Star Wars.
Wow.
It was really gritty about, fighting the Empire, and it was just like the long game. What I liked most about Andor was that every season was supposed to be a year. And it just shows you how long it takes to fight a revolution. It's the slow march forward and working and coordinating with people all over the place to fight for the right things. And not everyone lives to see the outcomes that you want to get, but it really just spoke to me. It really, really did. So I would say if you need to binge on something to give you hope, really Andor did it for me
All
in
right,
what
that's
we're going through
beautiful.
today.
Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yeah, definitely see it. All right, so that's that one. How about Legoland or Six Flags?
Six Flags.
Six Flags? All right, good. I feel like Legoland is more for the kids, right? I mean, like, I have fun when I go, but you're spending like $1,000 when you go to Legoland, right? Like you're not walking out of there without a $400 box of Legos.
My oldest and I went to Six Flags this summer, and I hadn't been since I was a kid. I didn't realize that it's become sort of morphed with the DC superheroes now.
Yeah, totally.
So that was all new to me.
I would agree with you. Six Flags for me, I enjoy much more, but definitely when my kids were younger, they were Legoland all the way. All right,
Yeah.
now this is a very controversial one. Wawa or Sheets?
I mean, Wawa I go to probably 5-6 times a week,
Okay.
and I think I've only been to Sheets twice in my life.
Yeah.
So that's easy.
Yeah, I enjoy Wawa too, but I could be a toss up for me. All right, what about the Poconos or the Shore?
I'll go with the Shore. I'll go with the Shore.
Yeah, I'm more of a
Yeah.
Poconos family, but I know you kind of have to choose, right? You either got your beach people or you got the Poconos. I like the cooler weather. I like the temperature to drop 10 degrees. No, I don't like to get hotter for me. And the sand, I can't do the sand.
Why do we have to choose? I mean, I'm playing the game, but
I don't know. I guess you could do both, but I mean, if you're going to drive 2 hours in a direction, people honestly have to choose. In 2022, you were awarded Government Lawyer of the Year, and the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania honored you with the Outstanding Solicitor Award. So that must have felt really good.
yeah, I was really honored. I mean, the probably the greatest honor was being recommended by other county solicitors across Pennsylvania and I really made clear when I accepted that award that none of the good work I did was work I did by myself, and so much of what I did was because I had an incredible staff. As you mentioned, we put together this incredibly diverse, talented staff, but also a lot of the work that we did punching above our weight came from building alliances with other counties. So whether it was protecting the right to vote during the 2020 election, or it was standing up to enforce our environmental rights, time and time again, I found myself partnering with colleagues across Pennsylvania. And so I really felt like I really shared that award with all of them.
I mean, those are amazing awards, and it just goes to show what you're bringing to the table as a district attorney.
Yeah, and that's really, I mean, that's really what I hope to do, especially if we're not going to be able to rely on the Attorney General to pick up some of that work on protecting working families and the environment. If your constituents don't like the fact that the price of insulin is being rigged, or that there are hazards to their environmental health, and there's something that the top law enforcement official can do about it, I'm willing to bet there's a bunch of other DAs in some pretty red parts of Pennsylvania that are going to be interested in teaming up with me in some of that work.
Let's get you into the DA's office and build some more awards for you, okay? Joe, what would you tell people who aren't as engaged in politics as we are about the importance of voting in the election coming up on November 4th?
Well, look, I'll tell you the first thing, Zeke, is whenever I'm meeting voters, whether I'm knocking on doors or I'm at the supermarket, I mean, the first thing I do before I say anything about what I think is I want to hear what other people think. And usually what I'm going to hear about is some concern or some problem people have with how things are going right now. And I think that right now, Bucks County is a good example where people are really upset with what's going on in the country right now. And whether it's the price of eggs, whether it's the tariffs, whether it's the cruelty and the chaos that we're seeing from Trump, people right now just aren't having it. So I'd like to listen to people, to hear from them what they're most concerned about. And usually it's something where there's something we can do right now if we make the right choices in our election. And that's when I talk about the importance of showing up and voting. And very often that has to do with voting for a district attorney who every day is going to think about your problems. I go often to a part of Bucks County called Upper Makefield because I spend a lot of time talking to the families there whose lives have been completely upended by a pipeline leak that Sunoco is responsible for. This is a beautiful community where the houses have now become prisons because the water coming out of the tap now has jet fuel in it. And the property values has now plummeted for people who can't get out of their homes. And this is a community that went to the district attorney, like they went to all members of government and said, "What can you do to help us?" And
Hmm.
what they heard from their DA was that this just isn't the job of the DA to get involved in. And it takes a minute of time for me to explain that this is absolutely something that the district attorney not only can be involved in, but needs to be involved in. District attorney has the power of the grand jury. The district attorney has the power to enforce environmental laws concurrent with the attorney general. And so often, Zeke, I hear from people what's on their mind, and
Hmm.
it's my responsibility to explain that there is something we can do to speak to these problems, but that we can't do any of it unless people come out and vote.
Right.
And I think that's the key for this year is making sure people come out and vote.
That's right. The buck has always and will always stop at the voter in a democracy. And if you want to see change, you have to get people who want to make change in office. And we need you to be the next DA in Bucks County. We have really important Supreme Court justices that we have to retain. We must vote yes to retain all three justices. And we have sheriffs. We have to make sure that Danny Seisler becomes the next sheriff in Bucks County. We have so many important races on the ballot all over Pennsylvania. So I'm glad that you listen to people and you give them a solution. And that solution is to get more Democrats elected up and down the ballot. Well, Joe, I believe you and I share an affinity for Mexican food, right? I
All
mean,
right.
I love Mexican. It's my favorite genre of food by far. Are you a burrito fan, taco fan? No discrimination when it comes to Mexican food. What's your favorite?
No, yeah, it's like the short and the Poconos, man. I don't know why you have to choose. It just depends on what
Just
day you're catch. But I will say this: if it's Tuesday,
mm,
it's non-negotiable. We do tacos on Tuesday in
tacos,
my house.
taco Tuesday. What's your favorite Mexican dive in Bucks County?
So there's a really good place very close to us. So if you're asking Doylestown, it's Las Fritas. However,
Okay.
when we're ready to get in the car for about 20 minutes, there's a wonderful place called Tijuana Tacos.
Tijuana taco.
That's Tijuana Tacos. It's a kind of a local franchise. They have one up in the Lehigh Valley. They have a couple down in Maryland, and family operated, fantastic food.
Nice.
So it's about a 20-minute drive for us. So that's kind of our little splurge if we're going to get in the car as opposed to
Yeah,
walk to get our antojitos. We'll go up to Tijuana Tacos.
that sounds wonderful. Well, if you're ever in Manayunk, okay, my favorite Mexican restaurant in the area is called Taqueria Amor, and they make this salsa, and they make it there. It'll knock your socks off. It is this like
Wow.
this perfect smoky, spicy flavor. And I don't like really spicy things, but I do like a little bit of spice. And they know it's good because they'll sell it to you in like a container to take home. Like they know it's that
Oh
good.
wow.
So yeah, Taqueria Amor in Manayunk, it's to die for. You should go.
That's my brother's district.
There you go. Well, we'll all go together. We'll have a trio. We'll have a lot of
I,
fun.
I would love that.
Joe, what's it like having a brother who's a state rep?
Well, I mean, mom always said he was her favorite, and
Oh no.
now he's everyone in Harrisburg's favorite
Oh,
because he's an
no.
outstanding state rep, and we couldn't be more proud of him. My brother was not a career politician, neither was I. He went into medicine, I went into
Yeah.
law, and we both found ourselves running for office when we saw problems that we thought someone needed to step up and address. In his case, he saw the fact that there was finally a vaccine created during the COVID pandemic. And he was really happy that as a nurse practitioner, he was in the position of being able to deliver those
Mhm.
vaccines to the people who came into his clinic. But it turns out that the system that was in place had no plan for folks who were shut-ins, folks who
Mhm.
couldn't come to him. And even worse, Zeke, it turns out that there was no real system in place for what to do if you had extra vaccines. So my brother figured out that just as an everyday person, he could get in his car after work and drive to people who needed these vaccines. So this was just showing up for people in a way that he thought government ought to. And so he saw an opportunity to challenge someone that he didn't think was doing the kind of work that
Yeah.
people in his neighborhood
Mhm.
needed done. And that's how he unseated a six-term incumbent by almost 20 percentage points. So my brother's story, I think, is an inspiration to everyone. It's certainly an inspiration to me, and it's incredible now that he's in office to just see how hard he works, not just serving his constituents, which he does an incredible job at, but showing up for Democrats all over Pennsylvania And I know you've knocked a couple doors with
I
my brother
have.
Tarek,
Oh,
haven't you?
yeah. Tarek and I knocked a lot of doors in Philly. Oh, absolutely. Yes. And we had a lot of fun doing it. I mean, I sometimes go back on TikTok and I go down memory lane, and there are a number of videos of me and Tarek, and also at fundraisers where he gives, very fiery speeches. So that's great. Are you the big brother, or is he the big
I
brother?
am the big brother.
You're the big brother.
I am the big brother, yeah. So so I kind of had to do a lot of stuff the hard way, but again, I'm a proud big brother, and I'm really inspired by the work that Tarek does every day.
I'm sure he's proud of you as well. Well, we're going to play another game called the Sibling Game. So between you and Tarek, who's the pickier eater?
Pick your eater.
Yeah.
That's got to be Tarek because he's pretty strict about what he eats.
Mhm.
He is a pescatarian.
Okay.
I'm kind of an omnivore. I
Mhm.
try and do things in moderation, and I try to eat pretty healthy. But I think that's got to go to the guy who doesn't eat any red meat, any chicken, any of that stuff.
All right, fine. Tarek's got that point. What about who would win in a wrestling match? You or Tarek?
Like arm wrestling or like the old like
Yeah, like
WWF. What are we talking about?
old school, like grappling on the floor, and whoever taps out first kind of thing.
It might be me. I probably gotten a few more scraps growing up. The two of us. So that, but I don't think we've ever had to find out. But
No? Okay, fine.
I might take that one.
Those days are long behind you, I guess. All right, who's the most competitive?
That might be me.
That's fine. Hey, you got to know yourself. Who whines the most? You or Tarek?
What's the most? I don't know. I'm gonna pass on that one.
You're gonna pass on that one? All right. Safe, very political of you. All right, this one's a good one. Who gives better hugs?
That's got to be Tarek.
Tarek.
Everyone wants to hug Tarek.
But who's competing, right? I mean, siblings definitely don't compete with each other. Joe, as a district attorney, you would help guide sentencing recommendations for crimes. What is your ideology on deciding the severity of a sentence for a crime?
Well, sentencing is really tough because there are so many things you need to take into account, and one is the case that you have in front of you, right? You've got oftentimes a victim of a crime, and it's really important to make sure that person has their voice heard. You have somebody who committed the crime who may or may not be the same person that's in the courtroom. Sometimes people change a lot,
Yeah.
over time, and sometimes these cases take a long time to resolve. And then you need to think about the impact on society, right? And so one of the things I can tell you, because there's so many different kinds of crimes and so many different kinds of cases, but what I can tell you is that in terms of a philosophy, one thing that was always really important to me was to try and do everything possible to make sure that everyone was being treated fairly. And I want to make sure this doesn't sound anodyne, but really being treated fairly regardless of who they were. And the reason I say this is that this was a real problem in white collar cases, oftentimes, where you had a defendant who looked very much like the judge. This might be someone who was college educated, right? They kind of had a certain kind of lifestyle. They might have even done some good things in their lives and maybe didn't have some of the sort of traditional disadvantages that a lot of other defendants had coming in front of the courtroom. And sometimes, there was a lot of kind of momentum for leniency for those kinds of offenders. They often had very, high priced, high powered lawyers. Their arguments could be very compelling to certain judges. And I found it to be really important. There's an old saying that the scales of justice don't balance themselves, right? And I think it's
Oh,
really
yeah.
important that at sentencing, especially if you're a prosecutor, that you make sure that you're doing everything you can to make sure that the right sentence is delivered, and that means that the victim gets justice and that the right message is sent to society. So it's one of the many areas where I think our justice system sometimes skews towards unfairness. And I think it's really important for DAs and other prosecutors to do everything they can to balance those scales and make sure that we have equal justice as much as possible.
The scales of justice do not balance themselves. What? Who said that? Whose quote is that?
I don't know who first said it, but I mean it's something I heard during the course of my career, and
Yeah,
and I repeat it often because for
I love
me
it.
it's something that I think we need to remind ourselves,
Yeah,
that our system is only as good as the people involved in it. And I
yeah.
think if you don't have people who really care, who really make it their mission to try and fight for everybody, the systems kind of will skew just to keep the system going. They
Mm,
don't skew towards fairness,
yeah.
and that's very much why I got into this in the first place.
I love it. I have on my phone the Notes app. I have quotes. So I always put my favorite quotes in there because it helps inspire me. So since you don't know who said it, I'm just gonna put Joe Kahn. Okay. So now you're gonna be in my notes of quotes.
Okay.
Okay. So Joe, is it true that you studied law under Barack Obama while he was professor at the University of Chicago?
I did.
That's amazing. That's really cool. Can you tell me a little about that?
Yeah, we joked about the fact that I had this Muslim dad and this Catholic mom raising me in a Jewish neighborhood, right? And it was a wonderful way to grow up, to learn to stand up for everyone. But I also kind of had this experience of always feeling a little bit like an outsider. And I get to law school, and I just meet this professor who also had a Muslim immigrant dad and a Christian American
Hmm.
mom, right? And he helped me come to understand that a lifetime of having to build a bridge to another culture, and every conversation that was ever going to have wasn't going to hold me back as a public interest lawyer, that it was going to be my superpower, right? And that's what really set me on the path that I began as a prosecutor, standing up for victims of child abuse and sexual assault, right? Who needed someone who could earn their trust, hear their stories, and then become their advocate,
Hmm.
and seek justice for them. And so I owe a lot to him, because I met him at a really critical time in
Hmm.
my life.
That's great. Do you keep in touch at all? I mean, did you get any contact information over the years, or that was just a once and done thing?
Yeah, well, so I got to know him a bit back then. This was the late '90s. I worked on one of his campaigns,
Mhm.
and then his star kind of took off 8 years later.
Yeah.
But we had the chance to reconnect back in 2008, when he was running in the Democratic primary for president, and he was in Philadelphia. I was in the U.S. Attorney's office, and so my friends in the Secret Service said, "Well, we heard he was your professor, so
Yeah.
why don't you come be our legal advisor for the night?"
That's
And
awesome.
so we got to hang out and catch up. And then a bunch of my friends from law school ended up actually going to work for him in the White
Mm.
House,
That's great.
which is pretty great. So I was very happy being here, serving as a federal prosecutor here.
Mhm.
But I was really psyched to see my friends go to Washington and do great work for the country, and to see him become our president.
That's great. That is a great memory. I met Obama once when he was at a Kamala Harris rally. It was at Temple University, and it's hilarious because I was part of the receiving line. And what I didn't realize, it was just I've never met like a president before or an ex-president, and they give you a card that you're supposed to hand to the president when you meet him, and it like has a description of who you are. And I'd done so much social media for the Harris campaign that it said influencer on it. It didn't say doctor. I was an influencer. So I thought that was hilarious. That like I'm meeting President Barack Obama and he's going to know me as an influencer and not a doctor. What happened?
Well, you're a great doctor, and you're a great
And I'm an
influencer.
influencer. Yeah. Joe, would you be the first Asian Pacific American DA in Bucks County history when you win?
I think I'd be the first Asian American DA anywhere in Pennsylvania, and I would also be the first Asian American elected anything countywide. We've got a lot of room for growth here, and certainly there's a lot of pride around that fact in a lot of communities. But it's not just folks in the Pakistani community who are excited about it. I think that a lot of immigrant communities where I spend a lot of time, and we spent some time in this interview talking about my love of Mexican food.
Hmm.
I've done a lot of work to engage first generation, second generation communities. I created a political action committee called Second Generation that supported political candidates from these underrepresented immigrant communities. And a lot of the stakes of this election are about how we welcome or don't welcome immigrants in Bucks County. So yeah, I am very proud of the fact that, if I'm successful, this will be an historic candidacy. I'd be the first Democrat elected in 60 years, but first
Hmm.
Asian American elected countywide in Bucks County, first Asian American DA. But really, what's more important is that we're going to have someone who's going to fight for everybody
Yeah.
and make sure that maybe I'll be the first this or the first that. I'm going to make it my business to make sure that I'm not the last, and then I'm bringing people up with me, and then we give opportunity for everyone.
100%. And I'm a big believer that representation matters. So I do think it's important to highlight that because there are going to be a lot of young people who have aspirations to achieve things. And when they see someone like you in that spot, that's going to mean something to them. That's going to give them a goal. So I want this for you. I really do.
Thank you.
For many reasons. Joe, why are you a Democrat?
Well, it was a Democrat who inspired my dad to come to this country. His name was John F. Kennedy.
Oh, wow.
And, my dad was a young man. He was a bridge builder. He had been born in India, a country that wasn't safe for his family because of their religion, and they fled to Pakistan. But that didn't turn out so great either. And so my dad came to this country inspired by John F. Kennedy. He met my mom. They raised us in this wonderful community in Northeast Philadelphia where I went to great public schools. I rode SEPTA to
Mhm.
get to Central High School, right? Was taught by great public school teachers, and then met this professor who had this big influence in my life named Barack Obama. So many of the values of the Democratic Party have really been a big part of my life. And that includes the idea that government ought to show up and work for everyone.
Mhm.
And that's the approach I've tried to take over my 25 years in public service as an attorney. And that's, I think, the direction that we need from our next DA in Bucks County.
I appreciate that you are a Democrat, that you represent the Democratic Party and its values. And I look forward to you bringing that to the office of the DA. We need those values at all levels of government and especially locally.
Thanks, Zeke.
Joe, what gives you hope?
My kids, I think it's tough to see some of the really bad things that are happening right now in this country. But I try to, number one, think about what I can do to make the world better for them. And I spend a lot of time looking at the world through their eyes. So I think we're going through a tough time as a country right now. It's a tough time for us as a county. But I'm very optimistic because of my kids
Mhm.
that it's going to get better.
But we have to have hope for our kids, right? Hope is a verb. Hope is something we do every single day to make this world a better place for our kids. So I am on the same page with you on that. My last question for you is what plans do you have to get yourself through these next few years?
Honestly, Zeke, running for DA has given me a focus.
Mhm.
I the blessing of having a long career of public service as an attorney on the criminal, civil, prosecution, defense side is that I'm able to do a lot of different things.
Mm.
And when you see so many challenges going on, in this country, it can be hard to figure out where you can make the most difference and
Mhm.
have the biggest impact. And it's clear to me having this impact, doing what no one has done before in my lifetime, which is winning this office as a Democrat, and then
Mhm.
rolling up my sleeves and getting to work to solving these problems. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going full speed on this, brother. We're gonna catch a couple Z's after the election,
Mhm.
and then we're gonna hit the ground running because
Good.
I really see public service as a privilege, and however much time I have in this office, if I'm elected, I'm going to use every single day that I have to figure out how I can use this amazing power to make people's lives better. And I don't think we have the luxury of waiting. I think we need to get to work right away. So the minute that I take that oath, and I'm going to mean every word that I say when I swear to uphold and defend the Constitution of this Commonwealth, we're going to get to work and we're going to hit the ground running.
But I love your focus. I love your energy. And I can't remember who said it, but I have my quote notes, my note quotes, right? And I read one somewhere that when it comes to running for office, when you put the bit in your mouth, you run like hell. So you really, really do. You got to run through the finish line. And I know you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Well, Joe Kahn, running for district attorney in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, will be on the ballot this November 4th. And like I always say, every election is the most important election. Joe, how can we support your campaign?
JoeKahn.com, JoeKhan.com. It'll take you right to my Act Blue page. We appreciate all the help people can offer, knocking on doors, writing letters, making phone calls. But right now, if you're not in Bucks County and you want to help, if you send us a couple of dollars, that will go a long way to getting the word out and helping us make history.
Absolutely. And I wish I could vote for you, but unfortunately, I'm in your county next door. But I'm going to be rooting for you. And I have a feeling this is not going to be the last time we cross paths and work together. So thank you so much for running. I really appreciate it. And run like hell.
Thank you, Zeke. And thanks for everything that you're doing this year. The work that you're doing, it's part of what does give me hope. And I love your podcast, and I can't wait to hear who you have on next. Keep bringing the Bucks County people because they're awesome.
will.
And you're going to love having them on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me here on the Zekely Podcast. Stay hopeful and get involved. And until next time, let's keep building a stronger Pennsylvania together.